everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I know it's a really busy time of year, so we appreciate everyone taking the time to tune in with us today. We're going to be diving into some of the most talked about topics in the event rental industry right now. We're going to talk about things such as tariffs, what people are purchasing, pricing shifts, and what the rest of the year could look like for the industry. I'm excited to be joined by 3 ARA members who are living this day in and day out. Before we get into conversation, I'm going to go ahead and let each of them introduce themselves. We're just going to start with their name, company, and where they are located. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it to Sarah first.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wilper. I'm with Taylor Rental in Manchester, Connecticut, and I also serve on the ARA National Board as the Region 1 Director.
Awesome. And Dan?
Hi, Dan Hooks, President of Party Reflections in Charlotte, North Carolina, and past President of the American Rental Association.
And certainly not least, we have Blake.
Yeah, I'm Blake Shumate. I am General Manager of Tents and Clear Span at Anchor Industries in Evansville, Indiana. And I've also served on the Event SIG ARA committee the last 3 years.
Well, we are excited to be chatting with you guys today. Just as a reminder for everyone, this session is all about just sharing some information of what our members are experiencing and just seeing in their region. So our goal is just to give you guys some insight and thoughtful takeaways to help you just prepare for the season ahead. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. So Dan, I'm going to have you kick us off with our first question. With the current economic climate and tariffs going on, how are you adjusting your purchasing strategies or any kind of new equipment or inventory for the new season?
Well, luckily we got out ahead of it a little bit. So we had ordered, we order about 20% of what we do from China. The rest of it comes from local manufacturers and from companies here in the States. But of that 20% that we knew we had to be out ahead of anyway to get the shipping here in time, we ordered that in advance of this, preparing somewhat for it. But in our world, this is not like a retail world where you buy something for a certain price, you sell it, you only get one shot at it. With the rental world, at least, we're able to, it may take you one more rental to pay for it, maybe 2 more rentals to pay for it, but at least you're expanding or you're lessening the tariff impact on you for any one particular product. So for us, it really hasn't impacted us that much to this point. We'll see down the line how these things go and how it goes, ebbs and flows with the percentages they're using. But right now, I think we're still holding pretty steady. We have price increases along the way anyway, so we feel like we're in a good spot right now.
Okay, great, thank you. And what about you, Sarah, up in the north?
I think for us, where we're a different size, certainly than Dan is, so I'm not getting shipping containers in from overseas at all. For us, I think we're being more conscientious as far as what we're purchasing, when we're purchasing, and doing a little bit more price shopping before I may have just, called whatever vendor and immediately ordered what I needed regardless necessarily of the price, where now we are spending a little bit more time doing some homework and investigating to make sure that we're optimizing the amount that we're spending.
Okay, great. And kind of kicking it to Blake now, off of that with people purchasing and with you being on the manufacturing side, have you noticed with tariffs being included now, have you been getting more questions from customers or have your conversations been changing with the people that you currently deal with?
Yeah, for sure. So for our U.S. clients, everybody wants to know, are our prices going up? And are our raw material prices going to go up that, we used to make these tents and clear spans? So thankfully, we haven't seen, a huge impact from tariffs yet. I think mainly because we are U.S. manufacturers and we get over 80% of our raw materials from U.S. sourcing. But that being said, vinyl and aluminum are the 2 main components in the majority of the things that we manufacture. So even if they're sourced in the U.S., some of the raw materials that make those products are sourced overseas. So there definitely is potential for increases to come. And but those 2 products have actually been pretty volatile the last 5 years, just with the supply chain issues that have happened with COVID. So we're used to staying pretty close to our vendors. That's kind of what we do, is just keep close to them and keep a close eye on these things so we can kind of stay ahead of the game. And then there's the side of just our international customers as well. Certainly there is concern there. We've put tariffs on pretty much every country, and those countries have put tariffs on us in turn. So, the question is when should they buy? Should they wait? Should they use what they already have? And I think that just the negotiations with our administration and, particularly Canada and Europe are where our majority of our international customers are. I think those negotiations are going to determine where this lands. So hopefully we're hoping that the negotiations land sooner than later.
So for the most part, would you recommend if members or people who are looking to purchase have questions to just reach out and ask them?
Yeah, I think all of your tent and clear span manufacturers are going to have a good answer for this issue, and I think just questioning them, and most of them, should have an idea of what's coming in the days and months to come. So
awesome, thanks, Blake. Sarah, just another question for you. Have economic pressures caused you to change your pricing strategies or any kind of service offerings that you guys have, or even changing any kind of minimums that you guys might have in event rental or just tenting specifically?
We're one of those businesses that doesn't have any minimums to start with. So if you want me to deliver one chair for you, I will. So that's kind of nice. I think for us, we've really gone back to a customer service focus. We haven't done any significant price changes. We're not looking at doing tariff surcharges, anything like that. What we've really been doing is, because we know clients are so price conscious now, I think even more so than we've seen in years past. With that, what we're trying to do is just make sure we're providing the excellence in customer service. Just trying to be as reassuring as possible, really trying to coach people through. The other thing that we've started doing is really more aggressively working our quotes. We are finding that with people's hesitation in spending big chunks of money, that it takes a little bit more finessing to get people to lock in. So I say we're being more aggressive in a nice customer service way, but we're definitely monitoring and on the quotes a lot more.
Okay, awesome. And what about you, Dan?
The pricing strategies is always one of those things that you have to be really careful with. And after COVID, I think one of the lessons that we learned through COVID was each year you really need to have your pricing where it needs to be profitable. Unfortunately, when you start going down this road of trying to be too competitive on price or trying to be too aggressive, moving with the market, sometimes you can set yourself up for failure going forward. So we're trying to not only maintain where we are, but we're still putting 3 to 5% in for increases each year. We did that this past year. It usually goes in September, which is our fiscal year end for the new year. And it's one of those things that it only takes a couple of years to get behind. And once you get behind, it's a tough road to get back to where that price needs to be profitable. So we're trying to look at that as our last resort. What Sarah said, for sure, doing that customer service, making sure you're doing the best things you can for your customers, giving them that big selection, giving them everything else that they can ask for, but trying to get our part of the overall budget, right? I mean, that's what it boils down to, is the rental has to fight for its part of the budget for a wedding or for any type of event. So if you start losing that, the customer's still going to spend that money. They're just going to spend it somewhere else. They're not going to spend it with you. So we try and maintain that. Like Sarah, we don't have a minimum. We'll deliver anything to you that you request. We try and make it as easy for customers to do business with us as we can. Just keep that good philosophy of good customer service going forward, and hopefully you're providing more value to the customer than you are. It's not a price thing, but it's a value proposition. So that's what we're going to keep doing.
And Dan, if you don't mind asking, just kind of on the same customer balance, but are you seeing any shifts in customer behavior or spending habits on what could be influencing them or the type of events that you're servicing?
Corporate is still very price conscious, like Sarah's saying. The corporate market is definitely still that way. The sports and the schools, those kind of things, they haven't really been changing much. It's all about relationships with us and trying to make sure we maintain those relationships. Social things, weddings, you're not going to change much about a bride's perception of what she wants for her wedding. So those have stayed pretty consistent. with this going through a year with the election and everything and the changing economy, there's a little bit of trepidation there. There's a little bit of maybe holding on to the money a little bit longer. They're not sort of going out there and getting stuff on the books, far in advance. They're sort of holding on to things. But what we're seeing so far is at the end of the day, they're still placing their orders. And, we're always going to be seen as a lagging indicator anyway, having gone through several, I won't say how old I am, but several recessions along the way. It doesn't usually hit us when it's on the news. It usually hits us about 6 to 8 months later. So we're sort of the lagging indicator to things. So it gives us a chance to prepare for it. If something does come up and there's a large conversation about a recession, then you have a couple months to prepare, but you definitely have to react as quickly as possible so that you get through it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. What about you, Sarah?
So I think I'm going to relocate down south and give Dan some competition because his outlook is so optimistic and positive. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. To be fair, I mean, we're up in the Northeast, right? So I think without making things political, we have a very different climate up here. We have a very different perspective on all things politics. So for us, where we would typically lag behind, right? Where the recession hits and then things kind of change for us. We've definitely seen almost an immediate impact here. We do a lot of work with colleges, a lot of private colleges, a lot of state colleges. And I have entire events that have been canceled and completely removed off of the schedule. So we're seeing a lot of education-based spending really contract up here. And that's definitely been tough. For us, that's a big portion of what we do. I would 100% agree. Corporate is still incredibly conscious of how much they're spending on everything. Food service, still very conscientious. Your brides, for us, we're in a weird spot between Boston and New York where we do still get a lot of budget brides. People still want to get married, but and have the big party, but it's a little bit different now. We're definitely more price conscious and where can we cut back a little bit here and cut back a little bit here. I would not be surprised to find that, when we get to the end of the year and we start looking back on contracts that maybe we had the same amount of contracts, if not more, but at a smaller dollar amount. I really feel like that's where we're going to start to transition more and more. But that's definitely been tough for us because we're already seeing the effects of it here. And also, too, we've even more recently started to get notification from our vendors that are based in the Northeast where tariff surcharges are starting to be placed on items that we're purchasing or renting from them.
Gotcha. And do you think the trend of micro weddings is still something that's going to be really relevant this year?
I would say so. I mean, I can think this morning I probably did a dozen quotes for 30-person weddings. So that's definitely a big one. I think clients are just prioritizing, I would say differently, but they're really trying to figure out what's a priority to them. And then they're building their event around that. So like I said, I think we'll have a lot of contracts just at a smaller dollar amount, that same sort of smaller wedding. I'm not doing quite as many for 150, 200 people as we did last year. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it continues to evolve.
And what about you, Dan, being in the South? Do you see smaller events being still something that's trending like the micro wedding?
I wouldn't call them micro weddings. I think there are fewer of the, it's interesting. We did some of the largest weddings we ever did during COVID because down here in the South, we had North Carolina's version of dealing with COVID and South Carolina's version of dealing with COVID. One was non-existent and one was over imposing. But so we had some of the largest weddings we ever did during that time period. And now I think it's sort of leveled back off. We're still doing plenty of the 200 and 300 and 400 person weddings, but we're not seeing the micro type weddings. Our venues are still full, and those venues are when I say our venues, the venues that we work with, they're still full, and most of those are 50 to 150 to 200 guests. So I'm not seeing that on what we're doing now. Here again, to Sarah's point, we kind of we have priced ourselves to where we're not really going after some of those markets also. So there are some competition that we have that do handle those markets. They may be seeing that more than we are. We're just not looking at that demographic right now.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Blake, kind of shifting back to the manufacturing end, how do you see the trade policy and tariffs just influencing the overall tent manufacturing sector and just the economy at a large?
Yeah, sure. Well, whether the policy works or not, I guess whether you agree or disagree with it, I think that the goal of the administration is to bring manufacturing back to the United States, and just to promote buying American products in general. So luckily for us, I mean, that's kind of been our strategy the last several years. Our goal has been to manufacture more and more items in the United States. We continue to add more clear span profiles that we manufacture here in the States that previously we would have brought over from one of our European counterparts. We're now manufacturing here in the United States. We have 3 meter to 30 meter. And our next steps are to continue that trend to build bigger profiles here in the U.S. along with warehouse structures and things like that. But I mean, I think as a whole, I think there definitely are some of the manufacturers who are importing tents and structures into the United States. I'm sure they are definitely seeing the impact of that. And I just think again, it's going to come down to the length of these things. Are some of the European and Canada, are those tariffs going to be lowered? And then is the China tariff going to remain for longer? I think all of that will have an impact on our market and kind of where it goes in the future.
And has your and Anchor's overall lookout for 2025 changed, or what does it compare to what you guys thought at the beginning of the year to where it's shifting now?
Yeah, sure. So our fiscal year starts in October. So we're actually 1 month into our third quarter. And our industry, just on a normal year, is very hard to forecast. It seems like there's very little speculative buying. Most of it is based on demand and deals that are already booked. But as far as just the party and special event side, I think we're pretty much where we expected to be at this part of the year. So our year typically during the winter, our clients will purchase for the events that they have booked in the spring and summer. And then the second half of our year is more based on jobs, new opportunities that are coming to them. And then, maybe a product is worn out that they need to replace that they didn't know of during the winter. So that second part of the year, it definitely is concerning to hear, the comments from Sarah that some of these things are being scaled down. I think that could have a big impact on our second part of the year. So something that we'll continue to monitor. And then we also do have a lot of customers that do government contract type of work. And I think going into this year, we all thought that was going to be a huge market. And it just seems like it's been kind of slow going. Some of the funding for those things has been slow to make its way through. But we do hear, I think that those are starting to roll and some of those things might start to happen. So overall, I guess I'd say I think we're about where we expected to be, but we're optimistically cautious, I guess, for the second half of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a kind of last question there. Do you think there will be a change as far as if someone's ordering something and the timeline for them to get the product?
No, not really. So again, from the way that we're set up, we are based in the United States, and the majority of our resources come from the United States. And we've actually, just because of some of the markets that we've chosen to be in, we carry quite a bit of inventory. So that's typically helpful when people need stuff in the event side. We typically have it on the shelf. It's different than what was happening the last, in the COVID time where raw materials were just hard to get. I'd say we've gotten, pretty ahead of the game in that way. So we do have quite a bit on the shelf now. So I'd say, at least for us, that's not a huge impact as far as timing.
Well, I appreciate the three of you guys giving your input and your feedback and what you guys are experiencing. I hope our audience is able to take away some insights or just kind of any ideas that you guys said. If we can help answer any questions, we're always happy to answer. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time.